I remember the couch being cold that night. Not just because of the worn-out leather, or the way it always seemed to hold onto the chill from the windows, but because of how she said it. Just sleep on the couch tonight, okay? No anger, no shouting. Just distance. That kind of quiet that doesn't mean peace. It means something's broken, and nobody wants to name it out loud. At first, I told myself it was just another argument. Just one more late-night tension after a long day of bills, missed calls, and those unspoken disappointments that pile up between two people who used to touch each other without thinking. I'd said something dumb, I don't even remember what anymore, and she'd turned away like I wasn't even there. Told me to sleep in the living room like it was routine. I didn't protest. Maybe I should have. Maybe I should have asked what was really going on. But instead, I just stood there, staring at the bedroom door as it closed behind her, and felt something shift in the air. Like a storm that hadn't broken yet, but you could smell it coming. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, surrounded by the dim blue haze from the streetlight outside. The silence wasn't silence anymore. It was full, weighted. My own heartbeat started to feel too loud in my chest. I closed my eyes, pretending to sleep. That's when I heard it. Soft, muffled, her voice. She thought I was out cold, I guess. Or maybe she didn't care, but I heard it. A whisper, one name. Jason. It wasn't mine. It was too clear to be a dream. Too soft to be a mistake. She said it like a secret prayer. Like a memory. Like something sacred that had nothing to do with me. And in that moment, something inside me didn't just ache. It fractured. Not the kind of fracture you scream about. The kind you go quiet over. The kind you carry with you like a crack in your ribs. Invisible, but it hurts every time you breathe. I didn't move. I didn't say a word. I kept my eyes shut and let the cold seep deeper into my bones. I needed to be sure. I needed to believe there was some other explanation. Maybe she was dreaming. Maybe it was a show she watched earlier. Maybe it was just a slip of the tongue, some weird, unconscious blur. But something told me it wasn't. Something told me. I just heard the first thread unravel from a fabric I thought was still holding us together. And as the silence returned, and her breathing slowed behind that closed door, I lay there, wide awake. Eyes burning. Mind racing. Wondering who the hell Jason was. It's strange. The things you start remembering when everything feels like it's about to come undone. The first time I saw her, Emily, she was wearing this oversized college sweatshirt, hair pulled back like she didn't care who was watching. She had this laugh, wild and real, like she hadn't been disappointed by the world yet. I remember thinking, that's the kind of person you don't let slip away. And I didn't. At least, I thought IDN single quotes to. We met in Seattle, in a tiny bookstore that smelled like old paper and burnt coffee. She was looking for a book on grief. Her father had just passed. And I was the idiot who made a joke about the self-help section being a black hole of feelings. She didn't laugh, but she didn't walk away either. We had a quiet beginning. Long walks under gray skies, takeout dinners eaten on the floor, music always playing low in the background. We were one of those couples that didn't need to say much. I used to think that meant we understood each other. Now I wonder if it just meant we never said what mattered. I got comfortable, maybe too comfortable. Work got busier, deadlines stacked up. We stopped going on those long walks. Her laugh became quieter, less frequent. She started going to yoga in the mornings. Started keeping her phone face down. Said she needed space sometimes. And I gave it to her, thinking I was being respectful. But maybe I was just disappearing slowly, one decision at a time. I look back now and realize the signs were there. Little things. The way she'd check her phone in the middle of dinner and smile at the screen. Not a big smile, just a twitch at the corner of her mouth. Or how she started going out more with her coworkers from the design firm. I never asked too many questions. Didn't want to seem jealous. Didn't want to be that guy. There was this one night, maybe 2 months ago. She came home late. Said she and Jenna grabbed drinks after a client presentation. She was wearing a new perfume, subtle, citrusy. Not like her usual warm vanilla scent. I asked if she'd switched brands. She said it was a sample she got at the office. Her voice was calm. Too calm. I didn't think much of it then. Now I think of nothing else. You don't expect betrayal to come quiet. You expect it to be loud, chaotic, obvious. But it's not. It's soft, gentle. It wears your favorite shirt. Kisses your cheek in the morning. Leaves notes on the fridge reminding you to pick up milk. And then it whispers someone else's name while you're lying in the next room. Spent the whole next day pretending I hadn't heard anything. I kissed her forehead when she left for work. She looked at me the same way she always did, but I couldn't look back the same way. I found myself staring at her hands as she packed her laptop, wondering if they had touched someone else. I listened to the way she said goodbye, wondering if she'd said it like that to him. I stood in the hallway long after she'd closed the door behind her, just standing there. Like the floor might give out underneath me. I needed to know who Jason was, and I needed to figure it out without her knowing. I knew, because part of me was terrified of what I'd find, but a bigger part already knew. The next few days were filled with silences that didn't used to be there. Not in the air, in me. Every time she spoke, I felt like I was listening through a wall, like I was watching her through glass, and she couldn't see how hard I was trying to read between the lines. Every word she said started to feel rehearsed, precise, kind, but calculated. Her hands still moved the same way when she talked, and her eyes still crinkled when she smiled. But something behind all that was gone, something real. I started noticing, more than I should have. How she'd take her phone into the bathroom. How she'd leave her laptop open but close out of every window. How her laughter felt like it wasn't meant for me anymore, like it belonged to some other world she stepped into when I wasn't looking. I kept remembering little moments, flashes. Like how, a few weeks back, I'd walked into the room, and she jumped a little, slammed her laptop shut like a reflex, said she was just editing a design brief and didn't want me to see her unfinished work. I smiled, said I understood, but that look on her face, that wasn't embarrassment. It was fear, or guilt. That may be both. Another time, I offered to meet her after work for dinner downtown. She hesitated, said the team was going out for drinks. Another time, she promised. But I caught the flicker in her expression, like I just made things harder for her by showing up. And there was the day I found her car parked 2 blocks away from the office. I was dropping off her charger. She'd forgotten it again. And I thought I'd surprise her. But instead of being inside, she was sitting in the driver's seat, phone to her ear, not noticing me. I didn't interrupt. I just stood there, watched from across the street like some stranger. Her face was soft, eyes lowered, a quiet smile on her lips. The kind of smile I hadn't seen in months. She was whispering something into the phone, nodding, like every word meant everything. Then she suddenly looked up, and for a second I thought she saw me, but she didn't single quotes. She just drove off. Didn't even notice I was there. That night I asked her how work was. She said, fine, slow, just a regular day. I said, you seem tired. She smiled at me. You always know, she said. No, Emily. I used to know. Now I was just guessing. The hardest part was how normal everything looked. How she still kissed me goodnight, still folded my laundry, still reminded me to call my mom on Sundays. It was like living in a dream that was copying our life, perfectly shaped, but hollow inside. And yet, the name kept echoing. Jason. Every time she touched me, I felt it behind her fingertips. Every time she laughed, I heard it underneath. A name I didn't know, but who clearly knew my wife better than I did. I didn't confront her. I couldn't. Not yet. Because if I did, the illusion would shatter. And some sick part of me wasn't ready for that. I needed more. More than just a whisper in the night. I needed proof. So I started watching more closely. Not like a man looking for revenge, but like a man looking for a truth he'd rather not find. Because when you love someone, really love them, you don't just want to catch them lying. You want them to prove you wrong. And deep down, I was still praying I'd find a reason to believe in her again. But instead, I found something else. Something that would change everything. It started with a voice memo. Not a dramatic message. Not a steamy photo. Just a 3-second clip buried in her recently deleted folder. The kind of thing most people forget to clear. I don't even remember what excuse I gave myself to look through her phone that night. She was asleep, her back turned to me, the same way she'd been sleeping for weeks. I lay there, wide awake, her breathing soft and even beside me, and I told myself it was just curiosity. But it wasn't. It was need. Desperation. That hollow ache in my chest that had turned into suspicion, now screaming for air. I knew her passcode. Of course I did. She'd never changed it. That almost hurt more than anything else. How sure she was I wouldn't look. The deleted folder was nearly empty. Screenshots of recipes. A picture of a dog we saw in the park. And then, that voice memo. I remember pressing play. Static at first. Then her voice, low like a whisper. Breathless. Jason, I miss your hands. That's all. I sat there in the dark, the glow of the screen burning into my skin like acid. Her face was still peaceful in sleep, but my heart was unraveling at the seams. My jaw clenched so tight I thought I might crack a tooth. I put the phone back exactly how I found it. Got up, went to the kitchen. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even move for a long time. I just stared at the fridge. A stupid sticky note was on the door. A smiley face, and don't forget to buy almond milk. And suddenly, that note felt like a mockery. Like she was living 2 lives, and I was the ghost in one of them. I started thinking back, making a timeline in my head. Trying to calculate when things began to change. When she stopped reaching for me in bed. When she started wearing that new perfume. When she got that new password on her laptop. Realized it was months ago. Months. How long had I been sleeping beside someone who wanted someone else? The next morning, I was quiet. Colder, maybe, but careful. I couldn't let her see it in my face. Couldn't let her know I knew. Not yet, because something in me. It needed more. Not just proof of betrayal, but a pattern. A map. I wanted to see the whole thing laid bare. Not because I needed revenge, because I needed to understand how far she'd gone. And if I was still standing anywhere in her world. At all. So I started paying attention to the small things. The way she typed with her thumbs, fast when she thought I wasn't looking. How her mood would lift when certain messages came in, only to drop when she looked at me. She wasn't cruel. She wasn't even distant. Not completely. She was still present. Just not for me. One evening, she left her laptop open, I told her I was taking a shower, waited for the water to run, then doubled back into the room. There it was. An email chain. Subject line. Last weekend. And his name. Jason. Not a coworker. Not a client. A man who said things like, I still feel you under my skin. A man who called her M. No one called her that. Except me. I didn't click anything else. Didn't read more than I had to. It was enough. Too much. But I made sure to forward one of the messages to myself, not to keep. Not to use. Just so I'd know I hadn't made it all up. That night, I kissed her goodnight like always, and I meant it, because I knew it'd be the last time I kissed her while pretending not to know. I didn't confront her. Not directly. Not yet. Something inside me told me that if I wanted to really understand what I was dealing with, I had to stop reacting like a husband. and start observing like a stranger. So I waited. Watched. And listened. That week, she said she was flying to Portland for a client pitch. A one-night trip. Left Thursday morning, back Friday afternoon. She booked the flight weeks ago. I remembered the calendar alert. Remember her carefully mentioning it twice, like a script she didn't want to mess up. I smiled, wished her luck. Told her I'd order in and maybe catch up on sleep. She kissed me. Sighed, I'll text when I land. She never did. So I checked. Not her phone, not this time. Her Instagram. Her main profile, a dummy account I'd seen once when she let it slip by accident. Something she used for design inspiration, she said. Barely any posts, but it followed a few photographers, some artists. And him. Jason Marlowe. I clicked on his profile, private. One of those bios that says nothing. Filmmaker, dreamer, coffee addict. It reeked of someone who wanted to be mysterious. His most recent post was just a photo. A blurry city skyline at night. Portland. I checked the timestamp. 12 minutes ago. The caption. Some things are better in the dark. And Conti. The tag. The hotel. The exact one she said her pitch was in. I felt my stomach knot into something cruel. But I didn't message him. Didn't call her. Instead, I looked up flights. There was a red-eye leaving that night. 11:40 p.m. I didn't pack a bag. Didn't bring anything but my wallet, my phone, and that forwarded email. I didn't even know what I planned to do. Part of me still hoped I'd be wrong. That it was all some twisted coincidence. That maybe she was there for work, and Jason just happened to be in the same city. But I didn't believe that. Not really. I landed just after 1 a.m. Took a cab to the hotel. My hands were shaking as I stepped into the lobby, not with rage, but with something colder. A grief that hadn't found its way out yet. A mourning for a life that was already ending, even if the people inside it were still pretending otherwise. The night manager didn't ask questions when I asked to connect to a room under the name Marlowe. Just dialed the number. I hung up before it rang. I didn't want to hear his voice. Didn't want him to answer. Instead, I walked to the elevator, found the floor, and waited in the hallway like a man watching his own funeral. And then I saw it. Her jacket. Hanging on the door handle. It was hers. No mistaking it. Tan leather, a little frayed near the collar. I'd bought it for her 2 Christmases ago. Seeing it there, that simple, ordinary thing, hurt more than any message ever could. Stood in that hallway for a long time. Never knocked, never touched the door. Just looked at the jacket. And turned around. I flew home the next morning before she did. Made coffee. Cleaned the house. And when she walked through the door like nothing happened, her voice soft and casual. Hey babe, flight was a mess. I looked at her with something she didn't recognize. Silence. Real silence. She blinked. Tilted her head. What? She asked, smiling. I smiled back and said nothing, because now I knew everything, and I wasn't going to explode. No, I was going to wait, because when someone builds a life on lies, you don't burn it down for them. You hand them the match. The thing about silence is, it's louder than any scream. She didn't know what to do with mine. For 2 days after she got back, I said the bare minimum. Not cold, not angry, just still. Unshaken, measured, and the more calm I became, the more unsteady she got. By Sunday morning, she was fidgeting with everything. Her ring, her hair, the cabinet doors. Making coffee she didn't drink. Asking questions she didn't really want answers to. Everything okay? Yeah, you're just quiet, just thinking. She couldn't figure out what I knew, and that uncertainty, it scared her more than a confrontation ever could. I didn't rush. I waited. And then came the perfect moment. Tuesday night. She was in the kitchen, standing at the sink. The house was quiet. No music, no TV, just the low hum of the refrigerator. Walked in with my phone, scrolled to the photo of the hotel post. Jason's blurry skyline, The tagged location. I held it out, screen glowing against the dim light. She turned. Looked at it. Didn't blink, didn't speak, just froze. That's when I knew everything was real. She tried to play dumb at first. Said it was probably a coincidence. That Portland's a big city. That he must have been there for work too. But her voice cracked, not from fear of being caught, but from shame. Because the truth wasn't just that she'd been with him. It was that she didn't even know why she'd done it anymore. She sat down at the table, didn't cry. Not yet. She just stared at her hands. They were trembling slightly. I pulled up the email next, the one I'd forwarded. Slid my phone across the table like it was a final piece in a puzzle. She didn't pick it up. Didn't need to. Her eyes welled. She whispered, "I didn't want to hurt you." I nodded, "But you did." She opened her mouth, closed it, tried again. "I thought you stopped seeing me a long time ago." That's when something inside me, the part still holding out for a reason, a rational thread, finally snapped. "You thought I stopped seeing you?" I said. "Emily, I saw you every day. I remembered your favorite tea. I stayed up waiting when you worked late. I asked about your mother, even when she never asked about me. I saw you. I just didn't know someone else was seeing you too." Her face crumpled. The first tear finally fell, quiet and fast. She reached out, touched the table like she wanted to close the space between us, but didn't dare touch me. "I made a mistake," she whispered. I was lost. I felt invisible. I leaned back. Let those words sit in the air. "You could have told me." I didn't know how. I nodded again. Then stood. That's the difference between broken and dishonest, Em. Broken can be rebuilt. She broke down then, not the messy kind. The quiet, breathless kind. Shoulders shaking. Hands pressed to her mouth. But I didn't comfort her. Not because I didn't care, but because I finally cared about myself more. I walked upstairs that night, closed the bedroom door, and slept on the bed alone. Not because she told me to, but because I finally chose it. And the couch? It stayed empty. For good. It's been 3 months. The house feels different now. Quieter, yes, but not empty, just honest. The kind of quiet that gives you space to hear yourself again after you've been listening to someone else's needs for too long. She moved out 2 weeks after that night. No shouting, no begging. Just a slow packing of boxes and 2 people avoiding eye contact while splitting a life in half. The hardest part wasn't what she took, it was what she left behind. A photo of us at the lake, sunburned and happy. A coffee mug that said, "Home is where you are." Her handwriting still on sticky notes in the kitchen drawers. She said goodbye, like she didn't know if I'd say it back. I didn't, at first. But just as she stepped through the door, suitcase in hand, I called her name. She turned, eyes tired and wet. "I hope you find what you're looking for," I said. "And I hope next time you don't lie to get it." She nodded. And that was the last time I saw her. For a while, I couldn't breathe in this space without feeling her absence like a weight in my chest. I kept expecting to hear her laugh from the next room, or find her hair on my shirt, or catch her scent when I opened the closet, but slowly, those ghosts faded. And in their place, something softer came. Solitude. Not loneliness. Solitude. A quiet kind of healing. I started reading again. Cooking for myself. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I took walks at night without checking my phone, sat at the park with a notebook, started writing things I didn't even know I was carrying inside. And one morning, I remember this. I woke up, and the first thing I felt wasn't loss. It was peace. She's part of my story, but she's not the whole book. And me? I'm still learning how to turn the page, but at least now, I'm holding the pen. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for your time. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to the channel. It really helps. Click the video on the screen, and I'll see you there.